if they do care as much as they say they do, start sticking around the events, stay, hang out, go by the divisional fields, watch paintball, absorb paintball, be paintball, stop bailing on the events because your coaches are yelling at you because you got to get out of the sun. You guys are pro athletes. You guys can handle it. Stay for a little while. Stay for a little while. You know what I mean? Like, how cool would it be if I'm just walking by and I'm going by the beer garden and all of Houston Heat and all of Dynasty and all of Impact are all just chilling, drinking beers, having, just hanging out. That's what we're missing in paintball.
Paintball nerd.
Today's guest on Paintball Nerd started playing paintball in 2017. In 2018, he formed the Missouri All-Stars. And in April 2021, he built the KC Sports Complex. He owns a fireworks business. He's the father of two. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Todd Boyer.
Thanks for having me, man. Stoked to be here.
Dude, I'm stoked to have you. It's awesome. So, Todd, how'd you find paintball?
So there's a local field called Jaggers. A lot of people may heard of it. It's somewhat infamous. So they've got cave, play paintball in a cave. So I went down to play rec ball a few years before I actually started playing speedball, and I fell in love in it. I fell in love with it really quickly. Like, I enjoyed going, through the caves and getting to play rec ball out there. And I actually weirdly didn't start playing speedball like how most people did. I went up top. Jaggers is a cave inside, and then up top they have like a another rec ball with a castle, and then they have like the speedball. When I seen the speedball back in the day, I was just super intimidated. I looked over there and those guys were all just, being normal paintballers, getting rowdy with each other. I'm like, I'm not going over there. I'm not messing with that. Few weeks fast forward, I see a tournament being held, a 2v2 tournament. So I told my buddy, I'm like, man, like, it's a novice tournament. Let's enter in it and, see how we do. So I went and played speedball for the first time ever in a tournament in a 2v2, got wrecked. It was a ton of fun though. And I honestly have been hooked ever since.
Nice. Yeah, so I was curious when you started talking about that there, because a lot of people, when they start playing paintball, there's an intimidation factor, right? There's like this natural fear because paintball hurts, and you see people yelling and getting aggressive, and you're like, I don't know if I want any part of that, right?
Yeah.
And that's intensified when you're a young kid. If you're 10 years old, 10, 11, 12, it's intensified. But how old were you when you first found paintball?
I was so I think honestly, I think I played like when I was probably 16 or 17, just out in someone's yard. I know I did, right? Like back in high school, goofing around with a couple of buddies, but I never actually did anything serious, even with rec ball. I mean, I never went and got my own gear or anything until I was 24. And it was probably about 23 when I got I bought, pod packs and all that stuff and started taking rec ball a little bit more serious and being a rec ball hero and all that fun stuff.
So how did this evolve? I mean, you started playing paintball 23, 24, you saw speedball, you're like, nope. And now you have an amazing speedball field that you own, KC Sports Complex. So how did this, your origin story lead to building an awesome paintball field?
So I'm a super ambitious person in general. So that's kind of the whole thing. Like, anything I've done in my life, if I see something that I really want to do, I'm just the all-in kind of guy. So that's kind of how we led into the paintball, into the paintball field. But I would say for me, so I don't really skip ahead too much, is I started playing the speedball, and in Kansas City, it was very, very bad. The speedball scene was terrible. Like, we had 10 people that would show up on a Sunday, and once I kind of figured out there was threads within Kansas City, like KC Sports, or not KC Sports, but Kansas City Paintball, discussions. I started posting there like, hey, where do people play speedball at? And there's this field called High Performance Paintball Park in Harrisonville. And so I went out there one weekend and I met these two brothers that run the field, and with their mother, her name is Kim. So Nick and Jared, I go out there with my buddy and we started playing speedball out there, just 4 people. And they started kind of teaching. This was after I played the 2v2 because I realized I was terrible. I'm like, I want to get better at this. This is a lot of fun. Even though I got beat, I had a ton of fun. I was like, this is nothing like I thought it would be. I don't want to play rec ball ever again. I'm a competitive person naturally anyways. I wrestled and stuff in high school, and so I'm always chasing that competitive side of things. I usually can't just
Well,
get in and have
how did
fun.
it go from like, so you mentioned when you started playing, you saw speedball and you're like, nah, don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
Like, how did you make the transition from not really liking
So
speedball to like diving
I
into
th-
it?
I think what it was is I wasn't scared of speedball and I wasn't nervous of speedball. It just was the group of people that were there that
Mm,
didn't seem inviting. And
aha.
it doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult. It does not
Right.
matter. Like people may say and pretend like, oh, when you're 25, you don't give a shit. Well, if you're walking into a room and everyone stares at you,
Yep.
you're not really going to want to walk in and sit down. Doesn't
For
matter your
sure.
age, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the environment it was at the time. And these players, I'm sure I know them. I'm sure I know every single player that was there during that day what the day that I'm talking about. Now, do I know who
Hmm.
they like are on the top of my head? No idea. But I'm
Hmm.
sure that they're awesome people and they're, would have been inviting, but I'm just a random guy walking to come and check it out. They all stare at me, make me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to even be a part of this. Like these
Yeah.
guys are not inviting. So that's kind of why I just stepped away and didn't do it. And then once
Gotcha.
I seen the 2v2 thing, I'm like, well, maybe this is. I didn't know at the time. Like, I'm like, maybe that was a private practice, or you had to be invited to do something like that. I just didn't know the dynamics of it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to just step into a situation where I wasn't welcome, right? And so that's
Gotcha.
kind of why I stepped away from that practice thing. But I knew if I
Hmm.
signed up for the tournament that, I've got rights to be there and I want to be there, right? So that's kind of what the mindset. So I wouldn't say I was scared or nervous. I was obviously nervous, but I wasn't really intimidated by it. It was just more the crowd. It wasn't welcoming. It
Gotcha.
wasn't as
Yeah.
welcoming as I wanted it to be.
I think there's a lot of that, Todd. I mean, like, it's not necessarily the format of the game that's intimidating. It's like, it's the truth that tournament paintball players can be a little bit clicky, right, and less
Absolutely.
less welcoming to newer players. So if you're listening to this out there, and you're a tournament player and you're at your local field, step up, like
Yeah.
welcome someone into the group, like make them feel like they can, progress through the sport. So
Yeah.
that's my tangent.
I would say like I actually personally, have struggled with that, I don't think a lot of people take self-responsibility as being a player and trying to grow the sport, but I know I've went through my stages where I don't really want to be bothered and I'm in my grind mode and I just want to, get better and I want my guys around me to get better, and so I haven't always been inviting, and including the complex. Complex was completely private at one point in time my first year, and I didn't want to have a lot of people out there, not only because I didn't want to deal with, kind of dealing with people. I didn't want to have anyone get hurt or anything. It wasn't really super safe at the time. Like I didn't have nets, or I just didn't have all the protocols that a lot of these other fields have. I'm a lot of people don't realize, like, I'm very solo. Like I own the
Hmm.
complex. Damien's been a part of it, but he's not currently. He doesn't help with, like, the day-to-day operations. He just kind of helped me get into the industry, got me plugged with the right people, like Bobby Avilis, like got me plugged in with Bobby. That was one of the best mentors I could have ever gotten within the industry. He kind of showed me the ropes on everything.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's just me, right? So like
Yeah.
growing the first year to 2 years, it was a struggle for me to try to be inviting, want people to come out. Like I and internally, I want to grow the sport. I want to help people get out, but at the second time, I'm like, I don't want something bad to happen. I don't want a little kid to get shot and,
Yeah.
me get sued and lose everything. So
For sure.
I struggled with that, really, really bad. So, but like this coming into this new year, I had a complete new fresh mindset. about it, and I'm like, I'm gonna try to do everything I can to continue to grow and make it safe for everybody and be inviting and just tell people like, hey, this is what we have. This is, where I'm at with safety guidelines. I want you guys to be here. I want you guys to be a part of the growth of the complex, and this is where we're at. So, and it's been great, man. This year has completely changed around. I've got brand new players that come out, they message me and they don't know what they're doing. I'm like, hey, come out on Saturday. So like you probably know, like speedball is big on Sundays. Everybody plays paintball on Sundays. Not sure why. That's just how it's been since I've got involved, and that's how it's always been,
Yeah.
no matter what region you're in. So what I try to do is I try to tell these new players that want to get involved to come out on Saturdays. Me, Clayton Long, Cameron Long, they all show up on Saturdays with me, and we just grind together and we show these guys on Saturdays. Like there might be 5 people there with me. There might be 10. And so we just run through fundamentals and we kind of just break down like, hey, this is how we play paintball. This is how speedball's played, and we just give them the rough go around on how paintball works before they have to go in Sunday the following day and just jump in randomly. So
that's
but
awesome,
yeah,
man.
like you said, man,
Grow the
we all
sport.
got to do we got to do our part, and don't be ashamed if you're out there watching this. Don't be ashamed if you haven't done your part and you haven't been inviting to people. Just change. I
It's
haven't
not
been
too late.
inviting, it's
Yeah.
not too late. I've been an asshole to people, and I try to do a great job at being nice and being great to our sport and showing people, this is what we got, but all you can do is change. So make sure you guys do a good job showing people like, hey, this is who we are as paintballers, and be inviting.
As a field owner and a father of 2 and a business owner, I mean, how it looks like you play a lot of paintball, like on social media. It looks like you're playing all the time, but I mean, how often do you play?
So I have a great dynamic right now with Defy Sports. Shout out to Defy. I ship out paint for them, and so during the week when I'm there, I'm wrapping up these pallets for customers. A truck might take 2 or 3 hours to get there. I usually will go hit drills.
Mm.
So there might be times where I play 3 or 4 times a week. I would say, if I'm just being real with myself, I'm at least two times a week right now. I'm at least like a Saturday and Sunday. I've been a Saturday and Sunday for like I the past 3 or 4 months, and then before that it was every weekend, at least once. So, but I've told my guys on the All Stars, like, if we want to disrupt what's going on in semi pro with like the top teams, if we want to be a part of the conversation at all, we got to be grinding more than the people that are in the first and second.
For
Fit
sure.
I mean, they're grinding 3 days a week, like, or
At
possibly
least.
4. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if we want to catch those guys, shout out to Fit, shout out to Blast Camp, because Blast Camp's the same way. Shout out to both those teams. Got a ton of respect for those guys. If I want to catch them, I have to play as much of them as them, or if not more. So
Yep.
I just told everybody like, hey, stop asking me if we're open on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm there. I'll be
Mm.
there. If you want to get some work in, meet me there, because I'm there and I'm grinding. So that's kind of my mindset, man, and I'm sending it like that the rest of the year, all the way up until Cup, and then once winter hits, because it gets bad in Kansas City, past November, I'm most likely going to be looking. I'm going to hit Mike Henman up. I just talked to Joey Blue. He just coached me out at the 1v1 duel. I'm going to be trying to travel and just grind, with whatever program I can get in, and start getting,
Mm.
some next level spins and stuff like that.
So Todd, are your goals personally as a competitive paintball player, are they tied directly to the Missouri All Stars, or is it possible that you see yourself going another direction and pursuing another organization?
I get asked this so much. I get asked this, like, this is like the number one question I get asked all the time. I am like so divided, because I want to give everything into the sport, and I think playing pro is like ultimately every player's goal, especially if you're semi-pro. I mean, everybody would love to take it to the next level. With that being said, I think that I really am married to the All-Stars, and because without the All-Stars, I don't see that complex succeeding locally. And it's not just because of the team, it's because if you take me out of it and I have to travel somewhere, like let's say I just join like Killers, like let's say I join Killers, right? I hit Ryan up, I'm like, Ryan, I really need a chance to like just be in the top. If I join Killers, I'm gone now. And now the complex doesn't have me. And the complex doesn't operate without me. Like I have my go-to guys that will run the field when I'm not there, but it just doesn't run the same. You know, nothing works out as smoothly as me being there. So I think in my mind, having a divisional team that I can play on, that's the only thing. That's the only way that the field succeeds right now in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, unless you outsource your activity at the field, your responsibility at the field.
Correct.
And you know, I mean, because what if a pro team hits you up, you know, and says we have an opportunity for you, and this, you know, this opportunity is going to change your career. You know, what would you do? I mean, Mike Hinman had Aftermath when he was on Dynasty, right?
Right. Here's my God honest truth, and this is what I've told a couple of my players on the All Stars, because they kind of see the efforts that I'm putting in, and they kind of see who I'm plugged in with within the industry and who I talk to, so they can kind of make their own assumptions on, you know, if I'm gonna go somewhere. I would go somewhere if it was a big enough check, but I'm not. There's no one that's willing to pay me what that check would be, you know, and I'm not there yet. Like I'm not deserving of that check, and I recognize that, right? So if someone approached me, it would be sick, and I'd be very, very humbled by it, and I'd be, you know, extremely honored, but I would ultimately decline because that check would not be big enough.
Who would you like to play for? Money aside.
Money aside, if I could play for any pro team, it's really hard because everyone would love to play with Dynasty. I would love to play with Dynasty because of a few players, but ultimately I don't care what team it would be. I would love to play for Todd. Todd's my man. I think like
Martinez?
Yeah. I think if I was to play for Todd, I think into like me as a person, I would grow with someone like him being on me constantly. And I could say that for Joey too. Like I didn't personally know Joey until this last weekend, but Joey reminds me so much of like how my wrestling coach was. My wrestling coach would just grab me by the ear and just kind of smack me around and be like, shut the hell up. This is what we're doing. This is what you're doing. You're getting to work. And that's kind of what I need, you know.
Yeah.
I naturally walk around like, you know, I'm in charge of everything that I do around me. So it's nice to just get around people that can take me under their wing and say, shut the fuck up and listen, you know.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. But
and you need that.
And I do, you know, that's what you need. Like at the end of the day, if people are watching this, they want to take anything from this, like I'm in charge of everything, every company that I've ever been involved in. And for me to grow as an individual player, I need to shut my mouth and listen to the people around me. I think there's key coaches that could do that for me. I think absolutely Todd would do a fantastic job. I don't care what team he would be coaching. I'd love to play for Todd. And after my experience with Joey, I would do the same thing for Joey and Skinny Kev. Skinny Kev is insane. But I only know that because I've like been around him over playing at MXL. Shout out to Arturo. Like it's a fantastic league. I've played over there and kind of just seen how he dabbles and coaches people. I think that he would do a great job with me as well.
Well, it certainly takes a special leader to lead leaders, right? If you're a leader in everything that you do, you need a special type of leader, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Todd, how do you want to be remembered in paintball?
I could answer it with just a general how I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered just by the person that just I like no one. I don't want anyone to like look back and be like, well, Todd couldn't get it done, or Todd said he was going to do it and couldn't do it. Right? Like I am a person that when I say I'm going to do something, if I say I'm going to show up here, I show up. If I say I'm going to build a field, I build a field. If I say if I'm going to build a fucking firework franchise, I build a firework franchise. Like I put the work in. I don't preach to people. I don't tell people to do something that I don't do. I do everything, every single thing that I tell people I do. And that's what I want people to know about me is like I'm the guy that fucking works, you know? And if you see me in the pros and I'm next to you, it's because I worked my ass to get there. Period. That's what I want people to know about me.
So what would you like to profess about paintball? Like what do you want to speak into existence here today?
As far as what? Like as far as the health of growth or
Your personal competitive career and the longevity or the thriving of KC Sports Complex?
I think that I mean there's so many different ways I could answer this. I think that like my mind where I go with like the growth of my career in the complex is I truly want to grow my divisional teams more than I really want to grow the all-stars. And I like I'm embodied with the all-stars. Like I am an all-star. But I want to grow my feeder teams because there's never been any team in Kansas City that's above D4. Like they all hit a D4 level and then they plateau and then they fall apart. I want to change
Why
that.
do you think that is? What is
It's
the reason?
sandbagging is the biggest thing, right? We have a lot of really phenomenal players out of Kansas City that people just aren't aware of. Justin Vanderwinkle, he played in the Vicious camp and all that back in the day, and he went pro, and he's a phenomenal player. He knew what it took, and but he bailed out. And I think like having a few of those players, if they would have just put their time and effort into our divisional side in Kansas City, we might have been able to get people to stick together. But the problem is once we got to the all these teams, I'm generically every single team in Kansas City hit D4. There was no step up to D3 regionally, and these guys weren't as committed to go to the MSXLs or the NXLs or these other USXBLs, these other regionals. They didn't want to put the time in and effort to go to those. That's why we only have one semi-pro team. I mean, to be fair, we only have one D3 team above, and that's us. We're the only team in Kansas City. So I really just want to change that, and it's working. It's Jake Dixon. He's got this league called EXL. He's doing a phenomenal job down there. Shout out to Jake and Tim Land. They're killing it, and I want to help them by making it to where these guys can come and grind our teams and get better and feel confident going into next year and not break up, not fall apart. These teams break up because they just don't have confidence, And then on top of that, it's there's just no competition, If Jake was to hold a D3 tournament, we'd maybe have 3 or 4 people show up, right? So long, 5 years, 6 years down the road, I'd like to see the complex have D2 lines, D3 lines, and I'm just being like this little dirtbag, like just grabbing players, like, hey, you're on the All Stars now, and like I tell my guys, like everyone does what you do, like they laugh, like I am very, very selfish person at the end of the day. Like I've done everything for a reason. Every move I've made, I've done for a reason. It's because I want to spend time with my family. I built my field because I don't want to have to travel anymore. And I'm inviting and I'm trying to build these factory teams because I don't want to have to outsource players. I want to build in-house players. I want to do like vicious type stuff, and even AC Dallas, before they fell apart, like Diesel's kind of the same way before they picked up all the players, like all in house. Mark Johnson knows very, very much about that. That's what I want to do in Kansas City. I want to build these D4 guys up, get them to where they can at least hang in semi-pro, and then I can just start, picking the best, hungriest players. The thing that's very frustrating to me divisional wise is looking at some of these players that have so much talent and they don't want to play. It's on my own team. I have multiple players. I'm not going to call them out. They know who they are. That I have to like convince to come and play paintball. I'm complete opposite. Like I want to be at the field. I want to be there every weekend. I want to be there with my boys. I want my boys to be there. I want them to be happy. I want them to be motivated. And when I show up, the only people that are really motivated are D4 guys, my complex dudes. And these KC Hitman guys, shout out to KC Hitman guys. They play at the complex as well, but they're motivated, so like I'm just like looking at them like, if you guys can just listen to me and just apply the recipe, I'll steal you. You'll be on the All-Stars, because your attitude and your hunger is what I want. And that's what any pro coach wants, or semi-pro coach. They want people to be there. They want people to actively want to be there, want and have the desire to be a better player. And that's the only way you're going to be better, is by wanting to be there, have the passion for the sport.
Yep, and there's a big difference between like finding really good players and developing really good players. To develop really good players, you need to first find someone that has a love for the game, because the challenges associated with bringing a player up will often make them quit if they don't love the sport. So if you have people that love the sport, but they're not necessarily where they need to be competitively, those are the exact type of players that can be brought up and nurtured and turned into monsters, because they'll do the work necessary, because they don't look at it as work. They love the game. So it sounds like you're going to accomplish just that, Todd. I mean, it sounds like more than something that you want to do. It sounds like something that you will do.
I have to.
Every market that's like yours needs someone like you to come in and bring that to fruition, because it's not going to happen organically. You need a leader. You need someone, a catalyst. So you are that in Kansas City.
Yeah, man.
So I'm excited to watch it happen.
I appreciate it.
Tell us about your favorite memory in paintball.
I have a ton, man. I have a ton. God, one of my favorite memories. I would say probably the best feeling and best memory I had was winning D3 series with the All-Stars. D3 series, that we won the D2 series, but if I'm being honest, it was like not convincing enough. Even when we won it, it wasn't convincing. Like, we didn't get to play leverage, and during that time, it was like All-Stars versus leverage all day. Everybody wanted to see it. We didn't get to play them at Cup for that finals. We played against Misfits, Vegas Golden Misfits. They came out of the WCCPL and came to NXL World Cup to beat us, to take first, and we took second. Super salty about it, but shout out to those guys. those guys are nasty, So we won, obviously, the D2 series. I wasn't super pumped about it. It was by barely any points. D3, completely different story. We sweeped D3. Like, we won everything in D3. So when we won the series, like, it was just a full party, man. We were just having a great time, and just the whole vibe through the whole year was extremely fun, man. I got to play with my current coach now, Leon. Shout out to Leon. And I got to play with Trey Goodwin and all these solid ballers, and we were just having a great time, man. Winning paintball and messing people up.
So tell me about the final point of that D3 victory, where you guys knew that you won it, and it was like that realization had come to you. Walk me through that.
I gotta be honest. We knew before it was even. It was like 2 matches before that. We knew.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like, it was one of the teams that were like maybe could have competed, got knocked out, and we kind of all were just like, there it is, man. And we won. We went back to back seasons, so we won the series in D4 in the MSXL as well. So as soon as it happened, I mean, we just started partying. We didn't really give a shit. I think Nick Kakuza was there recording, possibly. I could be wrong, but we just started partying, man. It was like match 2, match 3, or something like that. They went 0-2 or 0-3, and we just knew they were done, Dunsky. So it was instantly just one of the best feelings in the world, because when you make that jump from D4 to D3, you just don't know. You don't know, like, how are we gonna? I remember having that mindset. Like, we did so well in D4. Everyone's relaxing. Everybody does it during the off season in KC. It's like everybody, all right, no paintball, so I'm like telling the guys like, hey man, like we're going to D3, like we gotta step it up, we gotta start working harder, not ease up and hit the brakes. We gotta work just as hard as we did in D4. We came in and man, we were doing great all year, and we grinded all year, but we grinded hard, and it felt great, man. It just all that hard work, sweat. We grinded blast camp so many times that year. Shout out to Virgil and blast camp. We went down, I would say our D3 year, we probably went down there 4 or 5 times, which is a lot for a D3 team. And it was awesome that they were even willing to grind us. I think they were D2 at the time, but they might have bumped to semi-pro. This was 3 years ago.
Okay.
So they might have been D2, but either way, they were phenomenal. They shit on us, every time we went down there. It was
They play a lot too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Those guys are graders.
That like Fit and Blast Camp, it's like they're like home teams. Like the owners are also the people that play on the team.
Yep.
So it's like
those are always going to be the best divisional teams, especially when you have someone like JD and Virgil, right? Virgil is the blast camp, JD is the Fit. When you have these two parents, we'll just say parents because that's what they are. You've got these two parents that are just like so invested into their children and into the sport that they're just changing it. They're changing the players around them. They're changing the region. Like Fit's changed the region in Texas. Like I don't care what anybody says, Fit changed the paintball region in Texas, and people follow suit, right? Giant hopped in and they're doing their thing over there, and they're changing over there in their areas, but Fit is what started it, right? And Blast Camp's doing the same thing. They start off with one field. Virgil's growing. He's got 2 fields now, and he's got a ton of divisional things out there. He's running his own league now. I mean, Virgil's doing a great job.
They're like patriarchs.
Yeah.
Of paintball in the area.
Yeah. And I'm over here just a humble fan, man. I love people that are willing to put it all out there. And Virgil, I've spoke with him so many times. I've asked him so many tips and so many questions, and he's always been so willing to help me. And he very much put all of his life into that field, man. So
I love Virgil.
Dude, he's an awesome guy, man. He's an awesome
Who's your favorite player?
Paintball player?
Of all time.
I would say, even though this is probably surprising, I truly believe that watching Blake over the past 2 years has really changed my perspective. I had a different one. Alex Goldman was my favorite growing up, like not growing up, but like just when I first started getting into the sport, I was watching all this old footage and I'm like, Goldman's such a savage, right?
Such
like
a beast,
he's a beast, man, and he's just a workhorse. Like I love watching people just knowing that they just work. You can tell the people that work in pro. But Blake Yarborough, man, he is one of the funnest players to watch. Watching him grow from a 1, because that's what he was, punch side, Dorito side, and whatever happened with him with his injury or whatever happened there, he stepped back and started playing like that 3 center role. I think he plays it he makes it look fun. If you watch him, he's just having a blast. He's up there in these high pressure situations, having a blast, bopping people, and it's contagious to watch him. I got into my injury. I had a shoulder injury last year, and I got my surgery on January 2nd. And since then, I've had to do that same thing where I had to step back and stop playing a 1. I had to start playing a 2/3/center. And so I really just started keying up on how Blake was playing and all these other centers like Damien. Damien is Damien, right? Like Damien Ryan is he's a stud, man. But I obviously growing up around him all the time, I can't say I'm a fan of him. I know exactly how he plays. He's been hurting me my whole life, shooting me in the dirt. Like I don't really fucking want to even talk about Damien, So, But Blake, like watching him has really helped me change my game. And I actually said that because I just had Ronnie, Nick, and Blake out at the complex for a
I
big
saw
pro
that.
clinic.
Yeah.
And I said that to Blake because I'm like, maybe he just doesn't even get that a lot, right? Like there's just some of these players that don't get the recognition that they should. Blake is one,
Yeah.
man. He's very innovative and he can change his game at any moment. Like he's playing a completely different game currently than he was a year or two ago, in my opinion. And to be able to watch him and go transition from such a hungry one killer now into this, you know, passive kind of, he's just patient. He's patient, and it's like it showed me. It's like watching the film showed me like, hey, I can do this too. I can step back. I can let these young guys handle it while I go through my recovery, and I can still have fun and still play some good paintball.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Blake. I think Blake's my favorite player.
Shout out to you, Blake. And you make great sunblock.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
And dude, I love what you mentioned about it's clear to see that Blake's having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like he's laughing, he's smiling all the time. And there's definitely a special place in my heart for people that it's visual. It's like you can see that they love the game,
Right. Right. And
How about,
and honestly, like let's talk about that. If you're having fun, you're winning. In Dynasty, if you look at any of they're just out there having fun, man. They're
Yeah.
having fun. Their whole team is having fun. That's why these guys are doing as good as they are, man. Like they're putting in the work, and when they show up to the events, they can breathe a little bit because they know they put in the work.
Yep. And like look at Damage. Damage won they won the last event, the Mid-Atlantic Major, and those guys were having a blast. They couldn't wait to get to one-on-ones because they love playing one-on-ones. And you see Jacob, like he's sweating his ass off, and like you want to go out there, you want to do the one-on-one. He's like, give me a water and 4 pods, and he's smiling.
Yep.
And you could see he's having fun during the one-on-one. Like he shoots that paintball, and as soon as that paintball leaves his barrel, he's pointing, like celebrating.
He knows.
And he's having a blast. So I love guys like that.
Yeah.
I love playing with people like that. I love talking with people like that.
Absolutely.
Who's your favorite teammate? Like
my favorite teammate,
especially you played with. Yeah.
Well, I'm in a homegrown team, so we've had the same players since we started. We've obviously added a couple, and we've dropped a couple. I really hate that you put me on the spot like this, because.
Well, let me just clarify.
Okay.
By saying who your favorite teammate is, all the others are not your favorite.
Okay. Thank you for making that clear. I'm gonna give you 2 answers because it's not fair.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you 2 answers.
It's not a fair question.
So I hate talking so highly of Clay because I know that pro teams are gonna start eyeing him out and gonna start trying to steal him from me, and it's gonna happen soon. He just went over and played with FSU over in Europe. Clayton Long is by far one of my favorite teammates. He knows what he needs to do. He knows he's got to work. He's down to help me always at the field. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm like, Clay, I've got to hang this sheetrock, bro. You gotta help me, dude. We're hanging sheetrock today, and then we're gonna go play paintball here in about an hour. He's my guy. He's always there. He's always there to help me. He's honestly developed my game more than anybody just by being competitive. I'm competitive, and just watching him. Like when I was D5, Clayton was D3. I stole Clay from Plum Life. 2 or 3 years in. He's honestly one of my favorite people in general, just even outside of paintball. I got a lot of respect for him. So, and he's young, man. He's young. So he's by far my favorite player to be with. I love being on the field with him. I always tell Clay and just me, and when I'm on the phone with him, like if anything ever happens, you're coming with me. That's what I tell him. And so if anyone ever wants me, they better be expecting to pick up Clay. So that's what it is, and he's my ride or die. Outside of like paintball, just my favorite person to like just chat with and hang with is Trey, for sure. Trey Goodwin, king of all heart. He's my age, and we connect well, man. We've connected well since the beginning, right when I picked him up for the first time to play with us in D4. Since till now, he's been on the same page with me always. Even when he played on Mutiny, he's calling me after practice, telling me how it went. What are those guys doing that we're not doing? Stuff like that. So,
Todd, what's that jersey on your wall? It looks like from here, it looks like a trauma jersey. But I know it's not.
Actually, I have all of my original jerseys. Like, so this jersey right here is the V1 of the Missouri All-Stars.
What's your most cherished paintball item?
I would say the thing that I don't like to go to places without is my Hormesis headband, the Bobcat, the Bobby Avilas.
Oh, do you have it?
I do, handy? and I got it from Ryan Doss. He knew kind of me and Bobby's relationship. So when it dropped, he's like, I've got to get you one, and I'm like, dude, I'll do whatever. You know what I mean? Definitely get me one. And I was, before I got that headband, I wore my Ghost Sandana forever. That was my style. That's all I wore. And now all I wear is my Bobcat headband. I don't go anywhere without it. So
I love it. Do you have it with you? Can you show it?
I just washed it. I can grab it. Yeah, let me grab it.
Cool. Good old Bobcat, man. Got a lot of memories of that guy. He introduced me to music.
He's awesome, dude.
Certain music.
So Bobby shot, he showed me how to run the paint game and stuff like that. But here's the Bobcat right here. It's got some, it's been worn. It's been worn, that's for sure. So
I love it.
It's my favorite headband. But actually, Bobby is kind of the reason why I really wanted to take on the duel. Not only because I'm a Hormesis sponsored player, but because I suck at 1v1s, and I've known that. And I went out to California to hang out with Bobby for like a week, and he's just like so gun ho about them. He loves them.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're gonna do 1v1s. We're hitting the gym, and then after that, we're gonna do 1v1s. I'm like, all right, man. So, and he just annihilated me. But he just had a good mind about it. It doesn't matter if you lose. If you lose, you just keep running the points. Especially when especially not an event, when it doesn't matter. If that person beats you, there's inevitably you're going to catch up to them, and you're going to start beating them. If you're competitive enough, your mind's going to change. You're going to start thinking critically, and you're going to start getting to the point to where you can start beating whoever is on the other side of the box. So
that boy loved paintball.
He absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Did not matter what was going on. It was a Tuesday. He's like, we're going to Camp P. And I'm like, let's go, bro. Bobby took me. The first time I ever walked on Camp P was because of Bobby. So
yeah. Gosh, man.
Shout out to Bobby, man.
Shout out to Bobby, dude. Miss you, brother. The beginning of my paintball career in Southern California, of course, if you grew up playing paintball in Southern California, Bobby Avila is. But before we went pro or anything like that, we'd play tournaments at Tombstone, Bobcat. He was just always getting after it, man. And I remember in Chicago one year, I don't know if it was a practice or if it was a tournament at Badlands, but I was walking through the parking lot, dragging my gear bag, and I saw Bobby in the car, in the driver's seat, and he's like, so I get in the car, and he's like, have you ever heard of a band called the Postal Service? I was like, no. He's like, oh, well, let's just listen to it. So, and this is the first time that band had come out or whatever.
Yeah.
So he puts on the Postal Service, and dude, next thing I know, we fell asleep in this air-conditioned car in hot Chicago in the parking lot, and he set an alarm, and we had to we were on the Ironman at the time, so I don't know if we're going to the next game or what it was, but I just remember Bobby. That's how Bobby introduced me to the Postal Service. Is we freaking fell asleep in the rental car at Badlands.
That's sick. That's a good memory right there.
Yeah, man. Dude, I miss that guy. And I like, he's made a tremendous impact on so many players, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I would not be in the situation I am if it wasn't for Bobby. Not with the Defy, not, not as a player, I think he helped my mental game a lot, especially just Bobby was always the guy to call me. He actually kept track of my matches. He wasn't like one of those people that are just like, oh, how'd it go? Like he knew how it went. He would text me and be like, man, whatever, bro. Fuck those guys. You're gonna get them. Just get back to work. You're gonna get them next time. So he was always just right there in my corner, calling me, leaving me a voicemail. Just telling me like, hey, chin up. It's fine. The best winners lose. So that was one thing he always said to me: the best winners lose.
The best winners lose. I love that. What advice would you give to someone who wants to make their way up the ranks in paintball?
Oh, it's really simple. It's truly so simple. If it like, so I mean, in 5 years, I went from 6 years now. I went from D5, D6, right? Since there is a D6, I went from no rank all the way to semi-pro, and I did it by bumping up, right? I didn't skip anything. And the recipe was very, very simple. I played every weekend, and I've been playing every weekend. That's all you got to do. If you want to be good, play every weekend. When you're not playing, watch footage. I've got this guy Morgan. He's a local guy. He messages me every day. He's gonna do it for 365 days. So a full year, he messages me something that he's improving on, and the one thing I always say is footage, footage. Hey, did you watch this? Did you watch the Impact series? Did you watch Recklessness? Did you watch this? Did you watch Heroes for a Day? Did you like, all these OG things? Like, are you watching footage? Do you know your paintball history? Because I didn't. If you don't, just go research it. Go watch it. It's all on YouTube waiting. There's plenty of content, right? So, dedicate yourself, right? That's the recipe. We just dedicate ourselves, we have to put paintball first on the weekends. All this other stuff that's going on, avoid it. We can't go to the Worlds of Fun, which is our local amusement park. We can't go to Worlds of Fun on a weekend. We got paintball. That's if you want to, right? And if you don't, then fine. Go and play. Go play with your buddies and have a good time. But if you're serious and you want to grow and you want to be really, really competitive and be good, play every weekend.
Do you have any book recommendations that you think would help?
Yeah. So one book that that Leon, my coach, put me on was The Book of Five Rings.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, The Book of Five Rings. So it's a warrior's book, it's about a samurai at a young age of 13 going village to village and just conquering people and never losing these battles. And it's got a bunch of just different sayings and mindsets and the way to be. I started tapping in with it because I started dealing with like huge ego issues. It's everyone's going to deal with it. It happens. We all succumb to our own arrogance and our ego. And so I was getting into that a little bit, and I wanted to get out of that headspace and try to just like get back to just being humble. And because you don't grind as hard when your ego is flailing up,
Sure.
when it's firing on all cylinders, you're not doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. When you're humble and you got to work, then you work. You don't make excuses. So I needed to be back in the right headspace, and reading a couple of the books that I've been reading has helped. I'm actually currently reading I can't remember the actual name on it, but it's just a dad book. It's just a good dad
books
book.
Are great.
Yeah, it's just a good dad book.
Another good book about ego is a book called Ego is the Enemy. And it's by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, I actually so same author is who made the book that I'm reading, the dad book that I'm reading.
Oh.
Yeah, Ryan Holiday. So Yeah, so he actually has that in there. So I need to get that, man. I think that's the biggest thing is
The Daily
egos.
Dad.
Yeah, the Daily Dad.
Okay, cool. It's
a great book, man. It's not just for dads. I mean, if you're gonna become a dad, and I got it from Dustin, one of my buddies. He just gave it to me. He doesn't even live in Kansas City. Came by when I was running my fireworks stand. He was just traveling through and stopped in and gave me the book. And I'm like, all right, well, I've got some downtime in between, fixing product and customers, so I'll read it, and I have, and I would say it's game changer, man. I'm really trying to embody the book and try to remember some of the quotes in there. And I take pictures on my phone, so it will pop up at, here and there, of certain pages that I think really resonate with me. So I think it's good. I think that if people have any type of parent issues, it's hard to admit when you have parent issues, but if you had like
for sure.
dad issues or mother issues, go read the book, because you can kind of break through it. You can kind of like see some of the different things that may have been bad when you're growing up and stuff like that, and it'll be easier for you to break through,
Kind of
reading a
shine
book
a
like that.
spotlight on it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of helped me with some of my parent issues as I was growing up as a young rebelled kid. So yeah, I mean that but yeah, ego, got to keep it in check. You know what I mean? So that's another great book that I'll probably be tapping into here soon.
Awesome. Well, Todd, what are you most thankful for that paintball's given you?
I would say the friendships. I mean, I think that's what everybody's generic question is, or answer, right? Like everybody's
Pretty
answer is
much.
most likely like friendships. I mean, but it's so true. I've gotten to meet and talk to and continue to talk to some of the most legendary people I've ever met. And you know, it doesn't matter if they're pro coach, pro player, D5 player. Like you just meet the most unique people. And that's, I mean, it's valuable. It's valuable for me in my life, outside of paintball. I reach out to people, and I have great connections now because of paintball. Like if I need something made, and like I met a guy, Matt Corona, like he does signs, right? And I met him at the complex, and dude, I'm like, I need a sign post on my Facebook. He's like, I'll get you one made in like 2 hours, right? So those valuable connections have really helped me out in my current state of life. So I would say that's the most valuable thing that's paintball's brought to me, is my connections.
I love it. I love it, Todd. Well, I certainly appreciate your time here. Is there anything that you'd like to part with for the paintball community?
Yeah, I would like to say the something that I would just like that has been wanting to talk about. I would like to see for NXL events. This is something that is key to the growth of paintball, and if pro players, this is directly to pro players, if they do care as much as they say they do, start sticking around the events, stay, hang out, go by the divisional fields, watch paintball, absorb paintball, be paintball, right? Stop bailing on the events because your coaches are yelling at you because you got to get out of the sun. You guys are pro athletes. You guys can handle it. Stay for a little while. Stay for a little while. You know what I mean? Like, how cool would it be if I'm just walking by and I'm going by the beer garden and all of Houston Heat and all of Dynasty and all of Impact are all just chilling, drinking beers, having, just hanging out. That's what we're missing in paintball. I spoke to Tom Cole a few weeks ago about trying to do like a firework display. I think like Saturday night at World Cup, like how cool it would be if we did a players party where, pro players are, in my opinion, I feel like pro players would be required, right? Like I think like somehow NXL would be like, hey, you guys need to hang around and, hang out and mingle, that would be hard, but it would be cool if we did like $2 beers and everybody was just hanging out, and I'll do the firework display completely for free. And everybody just have a good time. That's what we're missing right now in paintball. It's just like we talked about the teams that are winning right now. They're having a great time. They're having a great time because they prepped and they did the work to get to the events, to have a good time at the events, right? But we're missing it. We're missing it. We're missing the good times. Divisional players aren't having a great time when we're at these events. We're going through the muck and, just playing our divisional stuff, and then we're just leaving, and it's a shame, because when I first went to my first World Cup experience as D5, like I just wanted to embody it all. I wanted to like go and see like where everybody was, and it just seems like no one's there. Everybody's gone. So that's the one thing that I would like to bring attention to NXL and to all pro players. If you're a pro player and you're watching this, stick around. Go by the divisionals. Go scout. Like pretend like you guys are interested.
Engage with the community. Engage with the media.
It's like imagine if you're a D2 player currently right now, and all of a sudden you're at the net, you're on the dead box, and you look behind you and you see Frazier. Honestly, probably has been in the divisional. So I was getting ready to say Frazier, but he's probably been there. But let's just pretend like we see, Alex Goldman. He never is. But let's say I turn around, I see Alex Goldman right behind me. I'm like, oh fuck, that's Alex Goldman watching me. Is he watching me?
My game.
Maybe he's not watching me. Maybe he's not there to watch me. But what if I just go get a 4-pack real quick? Right?
What if he said something after?
Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Impact.
It could be a huge impact on one player. And if we're always talking about grow the sport, this very minute thing of just going and wandering over to the divisional side of things and going, hey, let's put some eyes on here. People are going to be paying attention because you're a pro player and they'll recognize you. Maybe they might have the best game of their life because you're there watching.
So true.
So stick around, pro players. Do more.
Stick around. Do more, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Todd.
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for having me on, man. It was fun.
Loved it. Thanks, man.